Now at the Department of Archives and History of the Museum of Alabama, and it is a beautiful, beautiful building a la Washington, D.C. style with those big columns. And right across from it, obviously, the historical Capitol, the Capitol building in Montgomery, Alabama. Again, a lot of history behind this building. It's actually the Capitol has changed several times in the history of Alabama. A beautiful building. I'll show you from afar here soon. I'm walking down away from the Capitol building, and what you see right here in this yellow, or I'm sorry, orange brick on Dexter Avenue is the church where Martin Luther King served as pastor. It's the Dexter Avenue King Memorial Baptist Church. There's the historical sign right there talking about when it was organized in 1877. It was the second Black Baptist church in Montgomery. The first pastor was Reverend C.O. Booth. The present structure was built in 1885, designed by Pelham J. Anderson, built by William Watkins, who was a member of the congregation. Many prominent black citizens of Montgomery have been members, including the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., who was the pastor from 1954 to 1960. Montgomery bus boycott organized here on December 2, 1955. And this is what it looks like. Obviously an old building. Old brick style building. Pretty tall, actually. It reminds me of the type of buildings that you also see in New Orleans. Looks like it's still a serving church. It's still an open church. They got the hours of operation there. Out again, this is David Triana with CONEXION on the Streets at the corner of Decatur Street and Dexter Avenue, a historical corner, because this is again where Dr. Martin Luther King's Baptist Church was. He was the pastor here from 1954 to 1960. And then there is the famous and infamous also Capitol building of the state of Alabama, and everything that it symbolizes as it regards the civil rights movement in the United States. Martin Luther King, the Selma to Montgomery walk, and many other things, including the terrible George Wallace, governor of Alabama, who did a lot of bad things in my opinion. But anyway, that's also part of history, and that's how we learn, and that's how we can become a better nation, by learning our history and avoiding all those terrible things that have happened throughout our nation's history. In this case, slavery and the abuse of the African American community with the laws that were in place during those times. Another neat stop in downtown Montgomery. This is the location where Charles Oscar Harris family home was located on 813 Adams Avenue. He was an African American community leader. I'm going to show you now the historical marker for him. See if this thing lets me. Oops, it's not. This is what the historical marker reads. Charles Oscar Harris Family Home, 813 Adams Avenue. He's an African-American community leader who was a politician, and actually he became one of the longest active Republicans in the state. A lot of history behind this gentleman's name, according to the historical marker here. And here we got the supposed family home of that. Oh, it's actually 813, so I'm not sure which one of those homes is, because this is 801. But anyway, that's where the historical marker is. We'll be back. We're going to be walking to the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is another historical location. They have one of the awesome quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King right here at the main access stairwell. Until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Martin Luther King Jr. And then in front of it, there's a neat, almost like a water fountain that has kind of on a dial, like a sundial almost, calendar in a sense. A bunch of different key dates in the civil rights movement here in the United States. I'm not sure if you're catching some of those. I'm just going to go around the dial, and you can catch some of the key dates and important things that occurred in the civil rights movement, starting 17 May 1954. 17 May, interesting date. That happens to be my birthday. In 1954, I was not born yet. And then it just goes around the dial in a sense. It's a water fountain actually, with a continuous flow. And it talks about the different key dates in the civil rights movement, civil rights history of the United States. And yes, we still have a long way to go. So this is the Southern Poverty Law Center. And one of the neat things about it is that one of the founders is Julian Bond. Oh, I guess not. I guess this is not. Yes. There it is, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which was founded in 1971. One of the founders is Julian Bond, which is a very well-known social activist of the civil rights movement, also a politician, a writer, and all kinds of other things that he did. And I didn't know, but I was reading about Julian Bond. I found out that in 2015, at the age of 75, he actually passed away in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. The Southern Poverty Law Center is a critical entity in identifying hate groups and obviously advocating for civil rights for everyone. So this is another great location to visit in Montgomery, Alabama. Montgomery, Alabama has a lot of history. Some of it not so good, but still history. And it is always important for us to know our history, because it allows us to make changes when we need to, make adjustments, and become a better nation, which we are good at. We are good at learning our lessons and changing things. But again, there are some things that just need some more work. I am looking for the house of Jefferson Davis, which is supposed to be what was called the White House of the Confederacy. And I'm thinking it's this corner house right here, but I'm not sure yet because my map is kind of messed up. But I think it is. This was the home of Jefferson Davis according to the historical maps. Hey, check it out, Mercedes. There's bicycles here. So yeah, it looks like this is it. This is the house of Jefferson Davis, one of the leaders of the Confederacy and president, obviously. And there's the historical marker. The first White House of the Confederacy designated executive residence by the Provisional Confederate Congress on February 21, 1861. President Jefferson Davis and his family lived here until the Confederate capital moved to Richmond in the summer of 1861. It was built by William Sayer in 1832 to 35 at Bibb and Lee Streets. And it was moved to the present location by the first White House Association. So actually it was built in a different street, Bibb and Lee, which is nearby. And then it was moved to this location. Not a bad looking home for the 1800s, that's for sure. All right, David Triana here again. I am at my last stop before I head back to Florida. This is the Holt Street Baptist Church, 903 South Holt Street. And this is a very important and historical church also. And here's the church itself. Right now it is not operational. I actually ended up going to the primary church that the same denomination is now using. It's about 1.5 miles from here. Huge building. Met some wonderful people there. But they are telling me, I guess, that this is going to be refurbished and eventually will also become a monument of some sort. So in the meantime, it is not being used. But again, another part of history here in Montgomery, Alabama. I want to walk up and walk in the footsteps of Martin Luther King and all the great civil rights activists that may have gone through here, or the people that have spoken here or visited and were part of the history of our great nation. Obviously during some tumultuous times. And as we can see there, it is definitely not in use, but will be in the future. So the Holt Street Baptist Church, our last stop before I head back to Florida. And back home, basically. There's the side of the church. So again, yeah, it looks run down, obviously, because it has not been used for a long time. But soon enough, it will become another museum and be able to tell the story behind the civil rights movement and the importance of Montgomery, Alabama to that historical phase of our country. I'm gonna check out as I go back now to Florida.